So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this HQ Sandton hosted pre-launch webinar discussion. It really is an insight discussion. I know some people are still joining as we speak, so I'll just give them a couple of seconds to join. But I really hope pretty turbulent and emotional week for everyone at various different fronts. So hope it's a good ending to the week for everyone. And just I think by way of introduction my name is Stefan Botha, and I'm the director of Rainmaker marketing and part of the professional team behind HQ Sandton, but really here to facilitate a discussion with some of the best professional team members that I've come across in the project. And I think really to give everyone very unique insight into what HQ Sandton is and to provide information that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else prior to being able to make a decision come Saturday morning at 8 o'clock when we release this product to the public. So just a bit of context in terms of why we are here. So HQ Sandton went live as a campaign just under 4 weeks ago, with the launch date being the 4th of December, which is Saturday. There have been close to 2,000 interested parties to date, which is really remarkable. And I think it just shows the power of Sandton as a destination. We all know that there are various different elements that have been affected by COVID, but we know that Sandton is the powerhouse that it is for various different fundamental reasons. And in 3 years' time, when this building is complete, everything will have recalibrated to probably a far stronger destination than whatever it was. And we know that there is a huge demand for wanting to own or invest into Africa's richest square mile. And that's what we really are excited about, providing an opportunity where 93% of the purchasing opportunities are under the price point of 2 million, which is really unique. And I think credit to the team for having identified where that market is and having put a product like together with the likes of Jeff and Enrike and so forth, who we'll chat to in a little bit in terms of adding magic when it comes to facilities and amenities that probably haven't been seen within South Africa within a mixed-use development of the scale. And so Saturday is the big day. Radisson Blu Hotel, which we'll talk about a little bit later, in terms of sales going live, whether it be in person, obviously in a pretty COVID-friendly manner, and or online in terms of the ability to be able to purchase quite seamlessly via the comfort of your home, which we'll discuss in a second. So just in terms of a couple of very small housekeeping elements before I introduce the team, from a connection perspective, if you drop off connection-wise, please just go back onto the link that you had before and connect, and you'll be able to get straight back onto the chat. We really want you to ask questions. Any questions that you have related to the project, whether it be things like levies or occupation dates or construction, anything that you have, please post them on the chat function. That's the reason for this discussion. It gives you the opportunity to be able to ask consolidated questions and for us to answer them transparently and to really be able to highlight key components of the project. And I will direct those questions or answers onto relevant people on the panel. And we've got quite a broad panel. I mean, someone like Moremi, for example, project, but he's got a really, really good holistic view on a number of elements and really inspired by things like space and architecture and all those elements, and really good to get opinions there. And then from a duration perspective, we know everyone's busy. We're not going to keep this longer than 60 minutes, and we're going to try and get to as much as we possibly can that time. And we will be making a recording, which will be circulating to every single person who has inquired in relation to HQ Sandton tomorrow, and gives you the opportunity to be able to forward on to friends or partners or investors or any people who you need to refer to prior to the launch of the project. But in saying that, I think from a professional team perspective, we always say to people when looking at a project, there are a couple of things. You're going to look at the fundamentals, you're going to look at location, you're going to look at the price. But one of the most key things is effectively what we would call the jockey. And the jockey is the person who's putting the project together and how they surround themselves with the professional team who can bring value in all the different elements. And I think that's what's really exciting about this particular project in terms of who's been assembled and the track record they have and the ability to be able to take a product to market, deliver on that product, and create something unique that the market is looking for. And I think that's what really excites me in so many different ways. So I think just by way of introduction from a panel perspective, if I can introduce you, maybe you just want to raise your hand and say hello, but I think everyone can see you guys. But Elaine Jack, who's the Sandton Precinct Manager. Elaine, thanks very much for joining us this evening. It's the biggest thing about a place like Sandton is I think people don't understand how much goes into the precinct management and how much goes into the management security and all the different elements. And it just is such a game changer in terms of what you're investing into, not just into a location, into something that is managed like a private municipality would be in many instances. Milton Weinberg, who's the CEO of Weinprop and the primary developer behind HQ. How's it, Milton?
Hey guys.
And really the guys who have made all of this happen. So I think it would be great to just chat to Milton just now in terms of how everything aligns to the vision that the team from Weinprop have had from the outset. Tim White, who many of you will know, is the CEO of Profica, who are the project managers behind HQ Sandton, but also a team who have been involved in a huge number of projects, not only in Sandton, but around the world, and come with an incredible track record in terms of delivery. So how's it, Tim?
Hey guys.
Then Moremi, Mowela, who's the managing director of Blackstudio, which is an architectural firm, but also a man who is an influencer and so involved in different aspects of development, and I know passionate about a lot of elements, which we'll be touching on in a second. So how's it, Moremi? And then Enrike de Villiers. So in terms of from an interior design firm who operates around the globe. I think anyone who's been to Proud Mary and Rosebank is a prime example of being blown away by what has been created there from a spatial perspective. And I think where Enrike is sitting right now is one of those spaces that she's created with an HQ. And I know it's inspired by stuff from around the world in terms of projects that have been worked on, but I'm really interested to know about that and really how that has brought spaces to life and taken all the best of what's offered around. And then last but not least, Jeff Cole, who probably has put in more work than anyone on this project in terms of from an overall architectural perspective, a partner of Messaris, Wapenaar Cole Architects, and really the man who has put this scheme together and really created an incredible space. So Thanks. Welcome everyone.
Thank you.
So I think, Elaine, I'm just going to kick off with you, if you don't mind. I think really the biggest thing would be everything revolves around the location. I think this particular site, in terms of its location to not only to Mushroom Farm Park, but also to the Hype Train and everything else is really key. But what falls within Sandton, I think you've spoken at length historically about this 15-minute neighborhood that you referred to. Maybe if you could just elaborate on that.
Thanks, Stefan, and good afternoon to everyone who's attending the webinar. Yeah, I think our role as precincts is always making it a special place, and that is, of course, for Sandton Central, and of course the work that's being done from precinct point of view. It is about benefiting the surrounding areas around safety and security. So the 15-minute neighborhood has always been a vision for Sandton, because it's not just a work life that we try to enhance in Sandton, but also to try and actually encourage the residential property market to also be living near where they work, where they stay. And of course, this pandemic has really highlighted the point of that live, play as close as possible. And I think through the years, many of our project initiatives in the precinct has been around making sure the precinct has got a variety and enhanced and rich amount of amenities that could then support the various users that come into the precinct. And of course, in this case, is of course our residential stakeholders, living near a very well amenity offered space is of course crucial for developments from a residential point of view. And with that, of of course, we also work very much so around transport as well. It doesn't have to be just for cars, but it's also for public transport, as well as even a walk around the neighborhood that possibly is firstly is safe to walk, and then of course and aesthetic as well to walk in and enjoy. So that whole 15 neighborhood environment is what we try to thrive for, and we're certainly not just a work space anymore as Sandton Central, and we continues to work on improving that. And of course, the security from a Sandton Central point of view, we've also just put in a lot of CCTV in the precinct to try and enhance safety in the space. So that too is one of the what makes it important, and also preserve the quality of life and living in a precinct like Sandton.
Thanks, Elaine. I think just what you guys are doing is exceptional, and I think what it adds in terms of value creation for residential, but also for all the businesses and all other elements within the area. So congratulations, you guys you're doing an amazing job.
We definitely need the community to support our initiatives. It's not done by myself and just my team. It's all stakeholders that want the best for what they want in Sandton as well. So definitely it's the work of the community as well. Absolutely.
So Tim, I think over to you. I mean, you've lived and breathed this product for quite a long time. I mean, maybe just elaborate a little bit more on the journey of getting here, what the product entails, and what excites you so much about it.
Oh, thanks, Steph. I mean, it has been a long road. It's not easy these days getting properties rezoned and getting them approved, and dealing with residents and objections and all the rest of it to actually get them to a position where they're shovel ready. And ultimately, this particular product was ready in 2019, end of 2019, and it had come together with a lot of insight and a lot of lessons learned and a lot of IP from a lot of different people, driven by our clients, the developers, and the rest of the professional team, in terms of trying to create the right product. Now, the right product for Sandton, which Sandton desperately needs. We need to make Sandton a 24/7 city. You just have to drive down Rivonia Road after 6 o'clock at night and see that activity isn't quite there yet. It's got all the other commercial uses, but we need people. We need people to be there. So in 2019, we're actually ready. Milton was ready to push the button, and then things changed and COVID hit and all sorts of things came into play. And we've really used this time over this period to reassess and relook at the product and the type of development that we were going to roll out. And to be honest, it hasn't changed that much in terms of the level of luxury, affordable luxury that's being provided. I mean, there are affordable apartments, and the amenities around that already had a lot of insight and a lot of European thinking around it, with sort of an Africa basis. But what COVID did do for us is we really needed to look a little bit more in terms of a world in one building, essentially, and create a place that people could live in. And we've always spoken about linking, bringing the park into the building. And I personally have been trying to get rooftops on top of buildings in Sandton for about 15 years. And I've tried and tried and tried. And it's been too expensive. It hasn't worked in terms of the feasibility. We haven't got the right rooftop. And we've really created something here, and you'll see it in the vision behind Milton, of an awesome space, an absolutely awesome space that is north facing, looking onto the park, which is effectively the central park of Sandton, and creating this brilliant product. So it's been a long road, but so pleased that it's actually come out the way it has come out. And I think it's going to fly.
And then Tim, one more question. I mean, obviously, as you go up Catherine Street, you're within walking distance of the car chain, which is always quite a big asset test in terms of it. And then you've got the location to Ernest and Young Discovery. But that mushroom park that you touched on, I mean, there's a lot of research we've done in terms of, you look at, say, central business districts and properties that are aligned to parks within those areas, and how much faster they appreciate internationally. based on the demand? I mean, how important do you think that location to Mushroom Park is?
Oh, I think it's critical, Steph. I think it's absolutely critical. I think you can be in an urban building and not have access to being able to run on the streets and run on the park. And the beauty about this particular location is it's a quick in and out of Sandton. It's on Catherine. You've got access out of Sandton if you need to get out, and you've got access to public transport. And then again, you literally can walk, in your running shorts down the stairs, across the road, and run onto the park. So it's very well located. Right from the start, it's been something that we identified as a real opportunity. So location is critical. And then again, just perhaps to just talk about a little bit on timing. So the property is fully rezoned. The approvals are fully in place for it. It's been, we've got the bulk services agreements in place. We've got council approvals. So really subject to how well we do on the sales and whether the pre-sales targets are met that the funders require. So it's really up to the sales, and then we can get going.
And then, I mean, Milton, just from your perspective, I mean, what Tim has described in the journey, I mean, how much of what you see now into the final product aligns to that initial vision?
Yeah, so first of all, I just wanted to say how exciting it is to be here. I feel like I'm like a boss sitting on the rooftop here, looking at my background, and I think I'm going to be one of the first buyers. Great team here, and so exciting. And we're on the cusp of actualizing a dream that's been 4 years in the making. Tim mentioned 2019, we're ready to rock and roll, but we started this several years before. So just by way of background, we have been involved for over a decade in developing affordable accommodation throughout Gauteng. The typical gas unit, 2-bed, 1-bath. And it was always my dream, BC, before COVID, I used to travel to New York a lot. And it was always my dream to be able to provide an affordable world-class product in what I believe is the Manhattan of South Africa, in Sandton. And I think, as Tim says, a lot of thought, a lot of lessons have been learned. But throughout, there were 3 non-negotiables. Location was obviously the first and foremost, and I think overlooking what we'll call it Mushroom Park, aka Central Park, you're not going to get a better location. And lifestyle, I think Enrike will walk us through the vision that we've got of the lifestyle, and not to be overlooked, also parking, that we're going to be one of the few developments that can provide parking to potential buyers. So in my humble opinion, I think that this has got to be the most enticing project around at the moment, and certainly the best value for money in South Africa right now. So yeah, all very excited. And I have to, Steph, if you don't mind, I've got to don the hat to the professional team. It's been an absolute privilege to be working with such a dedicated, passionate team of professionals. As Tim said, this hasn't been an easy road. It's been a long road. COVID most certainly didn't make it any easier, but we prevailed, and there was a lot of hard work, rolled up sleeves. And I just want to make, at the risk of leaving a few people out, I have to make special mention. Firstly, Tim and Elaine from Profica, just unbelievable, professional bunch. I think they're no strangers in the property industry. To Jeff Cole and his team, Messaris, Wapenaar, and Cole, as you said, Steph, the hours that have gone into designing and redesigning, really a big thank you. And of course, you, Steph, been fantastic working with Rainmaker. Your positivity and your energy is just totally infectious. And if I'm feeling a bit down, I just feel like giving you a call. You're like a natural me up. So to your team, and of course to Enrike from Sketch, it just infused a whole new vibe into the project and to the lifestyle. And as you can see, she's there. I think she had a glass of wine a few minutes ago. I don't know whether, and I assume it's drunk.
It's after 5, guys. It's after 5.
As you know, that's the lifestyle that she's created in her background. So I think all around very exciting. I think it's a great product. It's affordable. It's in the right area, and yeah, let's hope it goes well for everybody.
Yeah.
Which by the interest and by the I know how busy the sales team are and how they've been in the last few days, there's no doubt that that's going to be the case. And I think just to, I mean, Moremi, I actually want to bring you in. I mean, Milton used the word infusion earlier when he spoke about Enrike. And Enrike, I'm going to get to you guys and to Jeff. And there are obviously got a lot of questions that have come through, and I appreciate those. I know Kendall sent through some. I know Alan sent through some. So we're going to get through those pretty shortly. But Moremi, I know, like when you've spoken about this big mission to infuse African culture and economic value into the property sector. I mean, how does a project like that help achieve this?
Yeah. So, yeah. Good evening, everyone. Everyone in my ranking taxis and hospitals, get wells. Hope you are healthy, fighting whatever you're fighting. Moremi Mowela here from Blackstudio. So we build our studio and projects in urban environments, townships, Tembisa, cities, Fordsburg, a little bit into Cameroon, all in search of this idea of transforming our spaces into site of high productivity of the space to work. So through this space, we've developed a specialization, if you like, in working in tight sort of urban environments, right? Kind of areas in the country and on the continent. So we've created a lab to test out possibilities of what spaces could be with our winter school, my partner and I, Botha. And through this, with partnerships with universities and so on, we have created a little trend finding, cultural affiliating, heritage inducing sort of systems, and how can we make our spaces meaningful and have impact and resonate. When we walk into Sandton, how do we say this feels familiar? This feels like it's inviting. It's people can be here. It can transform a space into a site of high productivity. So we're very much energized by this way of working. These themes of regeneration and bringing a space into life and making it identifiable. We start off maybe by working with so you take lessons you've accumulated from working on hostels in Alex, hostels in Mazibuko. You move on to transforming 4 rooms in the township like Tembiso, Katlehong, and transforming those 4 rooms into multifaceted units for upwardly mobile, young, starting to become independent people. And then you transform some of these things into larger scale projects like the Friendship Tower on the continent in Cameroon and Lillian Lots and Fordsburg, which are really culturally very expressive residential architectures. So the regeneration of these sort of neglected spaces weaves a lot through the projects that we do, and it has an impact on communities in the sense that it helps clients create housing solutions for young people who are upwardly mobile, right? So from taking a 4-room and transforming it into a 10-unit housing situation in Tembisa with the concepts of dignity, safety, and aspiration, infusing them into a place where people would want to move out and say, okay, those lessons, how do they now become a springboard to create a critical and talented intellectual base of people? As Tim alluded, that you need people. And then if you have people, these people will then help you transform your communities into real cities, right? How to invite young professionals and how do they become visible over and above wearing suits? How do they become visible and bring the kind of required energy that galvanize regenerative sort of benefits for any area? So for Sandton, or any city for that matter, for it really to become a city in motion, or to really come and create that urban energy that we need, it has to retain its talent and attract talent. Otherwise, then it becomes an era of stagnation. So HQ Sandton starts now to give us answers to that question. How do we attract talent, young, upwardly mobile? How do we retain talent, young, upwardly mobile? So these sort of buildings are needed much more quickly. So 3 years, please, can it turn into 18 months? But you know, building is building. But I like the process in which was involved here in the pre-occupancy surveys that was conducted by the marketing team, in terms of involving young people at the center of design development, through listening, through asking simple questions. And I think this has it has transformed into a design that has empathy. You know, when you start designing with empathy, we start now to hope to create homes that provide the best possible start for independent living. So how does one then open up Sandton? How do you create access to Sandton? So, excuse me, Sandton, like our townships, have a contentious sort of planning history, right? So Sandton HQ, by starting the conversation with the pre-occupancy, the questions that were asked involving possible buyers, that is starting to respond to the answer, to say, okay, how do we make this a city in motion? How do we make it mobile? How do we keep it moving? So the rooftop garden, the idea of accessibility and walkability, these are qualities that are already accessible in our townships. Now you take that and now you translate that into the largest rooftop that we're having there, right? Now you're starting to create ideas of neighborliness, movement, corner cultures, these traits which are a strong heritage within our urban environments, a strong culture within our urban environments, start now to infiltrate spaces like that. Now you're creating access. Now you're creating familiarity. So the Africa's richest square mile with these 700 plus apartments, you are starting now to answer the argument that Africa's richest square mile is not only rich with the idea of richness for the sake of richness, but richness in terms of heritage. The heritage of how we use our spaces in South Africa, togetherness, corner cultures, people in corners, people moving around, laughing in the street, playing even in the street. You translate now with those schemes and those heritages and those cultural traits that we have as a society, and you bring them into a building. And now that's meaningfulness. And now the disconnect that exists between Sandton to it being accessible becomes a real thing. Just by people.
Moremi, I'm just going to have. I just want to actually bring Ben Enrike into that, because I think it's quite important just to bring it. But I think you absolutely spot on there. And I think the amount of research that went into this, and I think from the word go, a huge component was that we know within this country there are various different components. So one is a lack of education when it comes to property investment, and people to understand the ability to create wealth through property investment. And huge amounts of people in this country have never had the opportunity to even think about that. And a huge component of this was exactly that. How do you bring people into an area to be able to enjoy the benefits of living in such an aspirational area like Sandton, which is obviously price point driven, and then bring in the infusion of all the different elements. And I think, Enrike, just to bring you in there, I think you've worked in so many different spaces. I mean, conceptualize. I mean, we spoke about Proud Mary, which I think we're all quite proud of in terms of where we go there as Africans, and then stuff across the board. I mean, Dubai, the US, etc. I mean, what was your brief initially, and how much of that how did it all come through?
So like you mentioned, our most recent and probably most notable project is Proud Mary and Rosebank, which I think is very worth mentioning, because Rosebank is an incredible, just as Sandton, it's also a hub, and what we wanted to create there was also a very democratic, very approachable space. So I was very pleased when I was approached by the developers for this project, because I think we can do some of that in Sandton as well, and some other guys have mentioned that just now. But I think Sandton needs that 24-hour city that's more lively, more approachable, more accessible type of environment. So when I was approached for this, I was really quite excited, and obviously still am. I think it's an amazing opportunity to create a beautiful, beautiful interior, and a place for gathering, really, a place where people can feel at home, but also invite their people over and enjoy together and immerse themselves. And I think what really stood out for me on the development was the location being on the park. I mean, it's not often in the heart of Sandton or in any built-up CBD or central urban area. We have the luxury of this beautiful park on your doorstep. And I think it was just an amazing. When I was approached by the developers with this project, I thought it was so out of this world, really, that we could have this beautiful architectural statement and beautifully designed units, and then this beautiful park on the doorstep and available to everyone and accessible to the residents. And so that was a big inspirational factor for the interior design. So we really wanted to bring in that botanical feel and the garden feel into the interiors as well. That's why in the interior behind me that's showcased, you'll see there's a lot of greenery in there. And we also use the green as a feature color in the upholstery. And then there was the beautifully created CI, corporate identity, for the building itself, which has this, it's like a very timeless pink, if I may say, that is a feature color for the brand. And so we've also added that in certain elements on the upholstery and here and there as a feature. And overall, I've just been so taken with the whole concept of especially now it's been mentioned just recently, but really being a gathering place for residents and their guests and bringing people together. And for me personally, creating should we say, public spaces have been I've devoted the last 15 years of my life to creating sort of public and accessible and approachable gathering spaces, most notably Proud Mary as an example. I love designing restaurants, but this cafe and waiting area downstairs and the co-working space and then the rooftop restaurant, cafe and garden spaces, just really for me like the next level. I can't stop gushing about it, really. It's an amazing opportunity for any resident or the guest of any resident even just to join in on the amazing accessible and social space that's been given within this development, which is so rare, really. I mean, most developments, I think, see this as an afterthought, and I think it's been an amazing idea of the developers to bring in someone who is passionate about this, like myself, to create these spaces that are so social and communal. And that's really, I'm so drawn to this project. I think it would be a great asset to anyone.
So what's that one space that excites you the most?
Who doesn't get excited by a rooftop with a pool? So I really love the rooftop space with the pool and all that. I think it's an incredible, and what we're trying to do there with the restaurant offering, and that's on the roof, I think it's very bold and very exciting and almost a destination of sorts. And I think any resident and their guests would love that. I mean, just standing on the rooftop by that glass balustrade with the bar, the bar opens on two sides, like fully stackable doors, and then even if you're standing at the door just looking out over the sand and skylights, or maybe having yourself a lounge spot there by the balustrade next to the pool, I think that's going to be such an experience. So definitely the rooftop for me stands out. But the lobby and the cafe and that co-working and just very open social lounge space, I think all of that is so amazing. Like I said, it's very rare for development to even take that to put in the time and pay this amount of detail to these spaces. It's very often an afterthought. So I think even the whole journey really from entering the lobby, looking out through the lobby and then over the park and then going upstairs, having that beautiful skyline view and also looking down on the park. I think the whole experience really is probably, as a whole, it stands out. But if I had to choose, the rooftop, of course.
100%. And I think if you look over Moremi's left shoulder, you actually see quite a big component of that. And then obviously looking down from where Milton's view is.
On his right.
Yeah. And then I think just a couple of questions I'm going to get through. I mean, I think from Sarada Raja, what is the ETA and the completion of construction? Maybe Tim, if you can just, I know you did touch on it earlier.
So we've got a 22-month construction program from start to finish, and obviously the start is subject to getting to the target level. So yeah, 22 months from that point.
100%. And then and I think depending on where you're sitting, if you're an investor or whether you are someone looking to move in, I think both cases give you the ability to plan. But if you're an investor with effectively, I think we realistically, let's call it a three-year time frame from where we are now to the pre-sales hurdle and then to commence construction. It's a great place to be in, considering you're only paying a 20,000 Rand deposit to secure now. All you've got to do is get your bond in place, and then you have the ability to ride the capital appreciation over a 3-year period. So it's actually an investor's dream. This is not just all about investors, but it also gives anyone the ability to be, if you can secure a bond with a very, very low entry-level deposit of 20,000 Rand, to really open up quite nicely. So that off-plan lead time, if you're looking for something right now, maybe not, but it really, really does work well in terms of we know where everything's going to be in 3 years' time and how Sandton just continues to grow year on year from a capital appreciation perspective. I know a couple of other questions. Melo, where's the sales office? Good question. The sales office is actually in the parking lot of Mushroom Park. It opens on Thursday morning. I know the sales team are doing a lot of remote appointments at the moment and so forth, but it opens on Thursday. There'll be a lot of appointments scheduled on Thursday and Friday for people who want to see the product and who want to actually be able to walk to the sales office and see everything. And then Saturday morning, the launch event is at the Radisson Blue, which is across the road from that exact entrance, just to give us a bit more space on the day in terms of how we filter people through and how we do it in a very COVID-friendly environment. Then just a couple of questions from Kendall in terms of what are the levies. We'll go in there in a second, but basically the levies work out an estimate right now. What normally happens is once the body corporate meets the setup, but it works out about 30,000 Rand a square meter, which for what you're getting is really, really good. And obviously the units, we try to create compact units so we can get affordable price points, which makes it those levies monthly become really affordable. And I think I know what Kendall's also asked is what are the additional costs that you would need to incur. I think one of the biggest things, and credit to the entire development team from the outset, was how do you bring the barriers to entry down on a product like this? It came from a low deposit of 20,000 Rand, but also the biggest snag that a lot of people don't actually budget for is your bond and transfer costs right at the end when you are transferring a property. So you have one thing where you have no transfer duties when you buy off plan for developer, which is brilliant. But you also, right at the end before you take transfer, you then have costs, which on a one-bedroom unit probably work out at about 80,000 Rand in terms of registering your bond, if you take a bond and actually registering the transfer, and that's actually all been included into your purchase price. And that is the beauty of this, is you 20,000 Rand down, you're getting your bond, and then you're actually having almost effectively a free ride through to transfer at the end. So I know there are a few more questions which we'll get through. And then what is the date of occupation of construction? It will take 3 years. Lindy, I think that's all. I mean, I think we estimate a construction period, but obviously there will be a trigger point that we will communicate in terms of when the actual project breaks ground. So effectively it's that 22 months from that period, which effectively, if I'm correct there, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a 3-year construction period. It's a 22-month construction period, so less than 2 years.
100%. And then, yeah, I mean, I think the There's a question here from Charlene Ramdo. Can you explain the online application process for those based outside the province? I am going to actually go through that before the end of the chat and just show you we are quite proud about the fact that we've created an online purchasing platform, which we think is as seamless as it can possibly be. And it just gives people the flexibility. There are definitely people on Saturday who are going to want to go to the Radisson and meet with the sales team and feel and go through the whole process. And we're going to, like I said, it's been scheduled, so it's done in a very, very COVID-friendly manner. And we really encourage you if that's what you'd like to do. But there is also people who are going to want to purchase online and want to give everyone equal opportunity to do it. And I'll be showing you exactly in a second just how you can go through about. Sorry, it's just so I pay 20,000 Rand and I secure my space. Correct. So what you would do is you would pay your 20,000 Rand directly into the trust account of Strauss Scher attorneys who are very well recognized and part of this effectively this dream team, a professional team that Milton's put together. And that's how it happens. You then provide your FICA documentation, they put it into trust, and then basically that is secured for you going forward. And obviously, if you don't secure your bond, I think it's quite important. There was no intention here to make deposits non-refundable in any way whatsoever. So if you don't secure your bond, then that deposit would be refunded to you. And yes, all bond and transfer costs are included. If you do your transfer to the attorneys that have been appointed, and if you go through Uber, who are the appointed mortgage origination of the project. And why that's so important is because we believe it's in the best interest that you have the ability to be able to apply to different banks. With all due respect, sometimes your own personal bank, and I might get slated for this, doesn't always give you the best option to get your finance because you need to be able to shop around. And I think that's what a mortgage originator does. And that's why Uber have been so key in the process here of integrating them in terms of being able to do pre-approvals and so forth. So if you follow that route, your bond and transfer costs will be included. So, Jeff, sorry, I know the architects have always got the most to say, and I know you've been keeping quite quiet. So
you're leaving the best for last.
There's not a lot of time. You don't realise.
Yeah, I know. It goes quickly. But can maybe just talk us through the facilities of the building. I mean, it's vertically stacked. I mean, you've got the rooftop at the top, but how they all come together. Just touch on those.
Well, I think going back to what Milton said right at the beginning, it was always the mandate, always the brief on this project, to put aside a lot of space for people, for the stuff that happens outside of the room. You know, your unit, the place you buy is really a place. It's a place to rest your head and to end your day. But this is a city building. This is a building about meeting people, being part of the community, hanging out with your friends, making neighbors. And so it's always been sort of the brief that we set a lot of space aside for communal gathering, for spaces where people can interact, where you can have facilities and amenities within the building without you having to go wandering off halfway up the road to go and try and find something and then it's closed. So this building's got gyms inside of it. It's got its own laundries. It's got all of the amenities you can possibly imagine. And so what that's done is it's effectively meant that the living space itself, the actual units, could be simplified. They could be taken down to the bare essentials, the space for living, which has brought the fundamental cost of space down for the end user. And it's meant that it's made this affordable product, which still offers all the amenities that you would find in a far bigger development. And when I say bigger, I mean spatially, not necessarily in terms of its physical size. But it gives the guys, whoever buys into this development has really got everything at their doorstep. I mean, they're going to be able to not set foot out of this building if they want to. There's workspaces. There's as Enrike said earlier, you know, you've got this beautiful rooftop bar entertainment venue. You bring your guests there. You chill there all evening. You miss the curfew because you don't have to worry. You're cool. This is the place to be. And I think
alcohol is available.
Well, exactly. It's a global building. So when we set this thing out, we said, look, we've got a park on our doorstep. why don't we bring the park into this building as well? So what no one's mentioned is that, and so sort of behind me here on my shoulder, so maybe I'm noticing it more than anyone else is, but this whole building is arranged around a park. We've got a centralized courtyard, which gives views to every unit. Every occupant in the building has a view. Everyone has space out, look out their window. They don't just look into a wall. And you've got this beautiful park space down the center with pools and gathering spaces within that park-like space. So, and then further afield, the main park. So the idea being is that, you want to go for a jog in the morning, as Tim rightfully said, you put on your shoes, you jog out through the courtyard, there's access onto the main park, you go for your jog, you come back, and you're back in the building, have a cup of coffee at Enrike's beautifully designed restaurant coffee bar on the ground floor. There's parking for pretty much all the units. I think that's one of the biggest selling points of this development, is that unlike a lot of the other developments that have gone up fairly recently or have been marketed fairly recently, where parking has been a premium, and if you didn't cough up more for your parking, you wouldn't get one. You have to be the first in there, first in the door. This one, there's enough parking to go around, and we've got ample parking for visitors, and we've even allowed for Uber parking, Uber drop off at the door. So a lot of the things that young people are looking for, lifestyle things, are built into this building. As Moremi quite rightly said, we want this building to activate Sandton. We've come from a history in this country of building cities that are commercial cities. It was the downfall of the Johannesburg CBD, and if we let it be, it will be the downfall of the Sandton CBD. In that we've commercially minded, and we very often push residential to the peripheries of our cities. And it's been a long planning history in South Africa particularly, but even on the African continent. And this is something we need to correct. We need to get people back into our cities. We need to create that nightlife. We need to activate our buildings so that they become public buildings, and not just have these standalone blocks that at night the lights get switched off and they stand there in the dark. It's not right. Our cities need life. So this is very much what this is about. And we hope that we've found the recipe to do it. And we're trying to create an African product. Yeah, this is not, although we said it's there's a European sort of similarity. It's a concept of vertical living that's very sort of northern to us. But we are African people. We're cosmopolitan people. We've got young and up and coming people in this country who want this. This is what they want. They want to live like the rest of the world. They want to have their spaces, their gatherings like the rest of the world. But let's do it in an African way. Let's not do this. Let's not copy. Let's make our own. Let's do it better. And one thing we do in this country is we do things better. When we put our minds to it, we are such a melting pot of people that really, I'm so passionate about this place, because I would never want to be anywhere else. I would never want to practice anywhere else, just because of exactly that. There's just so many ideas and so many influences, and so it's so exciting to live here right now, and to create a building like this in Sandton is just a dream.
Yeah.
I'm inspired when I sign up. Jeff, I want to stay with you, because I want to share the module that I think we all mentioned. We pretty chuffed about, but you guys just need to let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Can see it.
Sorry, let me just quickly. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I think just to go through this, I think for everyone who hasn't seen this module, and I think everyone who has inquired as a lead and so forth will be exposed to this. You guys can see my screen. I think this is really the platform we want everyone to be able to engage off come the weekend, and we really want everyone to be able to spend as much time on this module as you possibly can leading up to Saturday's event. And Jeff, you're welcome to come in at any given point in time, but I'm also going to ask our team to share this link, as well as the link of the downloads page. The link of the downloads page has the brochure, it has the buyer's guide, it will have the contract of sale, it will have the video, it will have a whole host of different things. But just as a starting point, if you want to navigate, so you go into main view, and you have the ability to be able to see where within the building the different unit configurations are.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I think quite important from a configuration perspective is that we we from a studio perspective, etc., that we've got a whole different combination of configurations. So you'll see the different plates as they go up. I think one of the things, and it's really important to mention, one of the things you always have fights around pricing. I mean, we had some heated discussions. Obviously, marketing always wants to blow, but the reality is we didn't want to escalate the pricing per floor to a point where investing in floor 8 or 9 became unachievable. And I think that is probably what I'm most excited about, is the fact that if you had to go up the different floors, you realize there's actually not too much of a difference as you go up. I mean, normally we know ground floors is quite highly desirable. Often if you have exclusive use spaces, and as you go up the building in different fronts. So I'll give you an example here, is that if you wanted to go into this module and you wanted to find something between 1050, for example, and 1150, it gives you all the different configurations within that particular segment. And I think to take it maybe one step further would be, if your budget was 1150, for example, and you wanted to get onto the top floor, you have the ability to be able to open that floor.
There it is. Look at that.
And then be able to obviously split out what the different elements are. I think, as usual, my connection would be slow as it when we need it to be fast. But anyway, so then you have the ability to say, okay, cool. So these are the different units that fit within my price segment. Now you're on that top floor. You're basically having effectively a penthouse within Sandton. And then to be able to go into that particular unit and be able to not only see what that unit type looks like in terms of being able to open that floor plate, but also be able to see again where that configuration is in relation to floor plate. And then most importantly, what does that view and configuration look like in terms of how you are orientated? So the beauty of this building is that the orientation is effectively more of a sort of a northeast orientation. I think Jeff can talk about that in a second. But then wherever you positioned, if you just had to orientate ourselves, here is Mushroom Park with what we're talking about. And then if you had to look, and many of you will know the Capricorn Park, which is quite a very successful hotel. And then, for example, this here would be the Radisson, where we're actually doing the launch. I think it's on the 9th floor, the 7th floor on the weekend. So that gives you the ability. So what would happen on Saturday? I'm actually working off a test link at the moment, just because this reserve your units is actually activated, where it's not actually activated if you go into it right now. But you then have the ability to be able to go in. I mean, we just got a holding name of one of our staff members, and you have the ability. I know the question was asked earlier: is parking included? So one would know that if you're purchasing parking within Sandton right now, you'd be paying between 250,000 and 300,000, and that's probably where this parking prices will get to. I'd say probably the best investment in Sandton right now is parking. But so that would be an additional cost. If you wanted to take parking with a unit, you could. One of the things of HQ is that there are 100 parking bays that be allocated for guests and for basically a floating pool. And within the product configuration, we do also have what we call the hospitality studios. And those hospitality studios, you'll see, have actually, are almost for those guys who want to put their units directly into the short-term rental management solution. And you can actually search for those. And those guys probably in many cases will not take parking, but it gives you the option to do it. The 2 beds do include a tandem parking bay into the purchase price. But what you will do on Saturday is you'll decide if you're taking parking or not, and you will literally go and you'll place your order, and you will fill in your details. And from that particular point, you would have a limited amount of time. You're basically going to have 20 minutes in which to pay your money into Strauss shares trust account. And we've specifically wanted to do it directly into a trust account because of compliance. We want to make sure that everyone is everything's secured from the word go. And it's a really, really important component of what the development team wanted to achieve from the word go. And basically thereafter, if you don't make your payment within that specified time, your unit will automatically get cancelled. But it gives everyone the ability to be able to do that and send to the POP. And our team will then contact you to congratulate you and so forth. So it's a very, very, very simple process. And I think it gives everyone the opportunity to really be able to explore and go through the different views. Obviously, from 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, this thing will start getting populated as we go. But I really encourage you to search either by unit configuration. I spoke about those hospitality studios. And those are effectively those units that will go directly into a managed short-term rental solution. And the reason why we're doing a managed short-term rental solution is because we want to protect the prices that get achieved on a short-term basis. We know the occupancies that the likes of a Capital Park were running at prior to COVID. We know we're going to get back to that, running in excess of 80%. Our projections are way lower than that, but the reality is there will be a managed concierge, a managed short-term rental solution that will give everyone the ability to be able to control things like photography and pricing and so forth, and really protects the ability to be able to really leverage your return, whether you decide to go short-term or whether you decide to go long-term, or whether you are residing permanently. And I think maybe, I mean, Jeff, I mean, I don't know if you want to maybe just mention a few. I mean, this is what we've seen now with Milton. This is the building from a configuration perspective in terms of how the orientation works and how and the configuration onto Mushroom Park, just to give you a bit of context.
What's very important while you're just talking there, Stefan, is just you sort of showed those views, but I think it's so key for everyone to understand that those views really are there. Those are the views. You are, when you buy these units, you are really going to see that. You're going to see this park, and you're going to see this view of Sandton. We're on a hillside. I mean, you're going to see the most spectacular views from pretty much every unit in this development, because of its configuration, because of this U-shaped plan in which everyone has a good view. You're not looking into the back of another unit. You know, it's not like the sort of townhouse complexes of old where you basically look into the guy's drain pipe in front of you. This is not that. This is a development where this is around luxury, and it's affordable luxury, and hopefully the buyers can see that. They can see that this is a high-end product done in a manner in which hopefully is accessible to the vast majority of people out there. And it's key that this is. That was our fundamental to get this, to create housing, quality housing for everyone.
And Jeff, I mean, we're looking at what we've got to open now, I think the unit that I'm sitting in at the moment, but maybe I think just to touch on it, I mean, how there's obviously a science to trying to, it's always the challenge between affordability and size, and the bigger you go, the higher the price tag, and to try and create units that work from a sizing perspective and then efficient. So maybe just to touch on that.
Well, I think the key thing here is that we haven't been shy in terms of the quality of what's being put into these units, the quality of finishes, the quality of materials chosen. It's good stuff. It's quality stuff, and on the day, obviously there will be sample boards up for the guys to come and see, have a look and feel and understand that stuff. If they are concerned, it'll be at the marketing venue. And I recommend the guys do come and have a look so that they get that peace of mind. But you know, we've taken these spaces and really applied a look and feel that is contemporary, that is edgy, that is African. This is not something. Yes, I know the inspiration comes from all around the world, but the melting pot, the stuff that's come together here has got a sort of an Afrocentric nature about it, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's really exciting that we finally, as a country, get into a point where the our architecture we're producing is starting to speak our own language, not something inherited, not something borrowed. Also on these, I just want to mention while we're looking at these plans, you mentioned the parking bays and the purchasing of parking bays. There are also some storage units available. They're a very limited number, Stefan, but I know from my experience that those storage units are highly prized in these sort of developments, having done plenty of these in the past, and I highly recommend the guys look at that as well, the buyers. Place to store your bicycle, a place to just have a little bit of extra space to put your gear. You know, if you're an outdoor enthusiast, you're bound to have something you need to store somewhere. So just add that in.
100%. And Jeff, just one thing. I mean, I always say that if you want to know a good buy, you chat to the architect, and you generally see where the architects are buying up front or what they're holding back. But I think if you, in this case, I mean, I think we all know there are a couple of fundamentals of property investment. One is you buy off plan in many instances, and you see the capital appreciation. But the other is you pick first. And I think the beauty of getting in at launch is you have the ability to be able to choose ahead of many others. what are the kind of things a guy should be looking for? If you're sitting with a blank canvas like this in terms of ground floor through to 9th floor, and you've got different configurations, just a couple of tips.
Well, look, I think when you're looking at these units, you want to look for things like overlooking. If you don't want to be necessarily spot on by your neighbor all the time, so it's always quite a key aspect in these sorts of developments. You want convenience, being close to things like the lift shafts is quite prime. I mean, you don't want to have to lug your shopping for kilometers, once you get home. That's if you do any shopping. I think in a building like this, you're going to have so much provided, you may not even have to do that. But you want the convenience aspect. So what's your location to the pool? I mean, if you're an investor client and you're looking at this and you're looking to secure a unit that will let out in the future, look for things that are going to be convenient for your future tenants. Have their sort of wishes in the back of your mind the whole time. You look at orientation. Obviously, the building being a U does have some orientations that are better than others, but we've tried our best to mitigate that. So even the west-facing units, if you see there where the cursor is, that's sort of the western side of the building. We've put in thin walls between the units to try and break the sun, the western sun, a little bit. So we've really tried to improve all the facades of this building to make it as usable and habitable as possible. And hopefully there isn't a bad unit in here. I'd like to say that there isn't, and hopefully the guys will see that when they start looking through these plans in some detail. They'll see that there's real value in every single unit here in this particular development.
If you're being cagey, Jeff, where are you going to buy? Which one are you going to buy? That's what
I would like those end ones there. The ones that look over that park right there, those C1s. Yeah, look at those. They're right on the end, on the tip of that one wing. I know it's a bit far from the lift, but geez, those are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's like living in the park.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think just to add to that, I mean, I think those are very unique insights, and I know, I mean, there's no doubt that is those tips in terms of having uninterrupted views in future. I mean, it's a huge thing, and I think regardless of what floor you're at and so forth, just open those again, whether you're looking back towards like a Kramerville, for example, or so forth. I mean, I think it's pretty unique in terms of, there's nothing ever going to be built there. So, and I think what we would highly recommend is that we do have the chat function, which is available on the site. The sales team are manning that, and you have the ability to be able to ask any questions. And that's why we are really pushing for people who are really intent on buying on Saturday to try and get to the sales office on Thursday or Friday, and to deal with the sales team and to be able to ask all the different questions. You can do that via phone, or you can do that via the chat function, or you can do that in person. Just so by the time you get this, that you really do have a really, really good feel for what you're looking for. And again, on this module, you have the ability to be able to open the different unit types and be able to go through the different unit types, ask the different questions around that, be able to, there's a function here around the facilities in terms of being able to go through the different facilities and see what's available and all the different elements around it, and also be able to open the video if you want to go through that. So I think just that we really wanted to give everyone a really good holistic tool to be able to make all the decisions they want, whether it be at the Radisson at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning or remotely from their home. And I think just one or two other questions. I think, Bazani, is it full title or the sectional title? Tim, I don't know if you want to answer that. It is sectional title, and there are a lot of benefits to sectional title. Tim, I don't know if you want to maybe touch on that quickly before we wrap up.
On the sectional title side?
Yeah, correct.
No, I don't know what you want out of that.
No, sorry. No, I think the question was just whether it's sectional title or full title. But I think, yeah.
It is obviously sectional title, administered and managed by corporate in terms of the Sectional Title Act. So, yes, standard sectional title.
Yeah, 100%. And I think obviously in the best interest of everyone through a levy to maintain the common areas and so forth. Yeah. So I think, I mean, obviously there's a lot more would want to ask everyone. Unfortunately, time has come to an end. like I did mention, we have recorded this. We will be sending, and we really encourage that the sales team will be available at any given point in time if you want to ask them any questions, and really use that chat function. And the administration team, if you're a recent lead, they will be contacting you during the course of the next day or so to give you the ability to be able to set up your appointment prior to launch or to arrive on Saturday. We know based on this product and how unique it is. Without, I'm a marketer, I'm not a salesman, so this is a marketing thing, but just to try and get there as early as you can and really to be prepared for what you have, because the benefits of getting those early ones up front make a huge difference at the end of the day, regardless of how you look at it. And we'll be sending a mail out to everyone. I know, Lindiwe, you've just asked about the reporting. I think just to recap high level, the studios start from 890. Those and again, you can search that on the elements. If I can just ask our team just to make sure that they have shared the module link and the downloads link on the question and answer section, just so that everyone can actually click on it straight away if they wanted to off the back of this. I know it is hqsandton.co.za /sales, just so you have it. Studios from 890, the 1-bed start from 1.58. The 2-bed start from 2.28 million, but those include a tandem parking bay that comes with it. The deposit is 20,000 Rand, as you spoke about. No transfer or bond or transfer costs if you are going but the route of Starshare and Uber, which saves you about 108,000 Rand on a 1-bed unit, which is a huge saving in the context of things. That off-plan period we spoke about. One of the most important things I think for everyone to understand, and it's important to be upfront, is that the development needs a pre-sales hurdle to move forward. We all want this project to move forward, and one of the key things there is securing financing, and it's a hell of an important thing. Yes, you pay your 20,000 Rand. We know that banks at the moment, they have an obligation to give bonds, and we know that interest rates are as low as they've been in where was a small little hike recently, but as low as they've been effectively in the last 40 years. Which gives us a great opportunity to get financing, but you've got 21 days to get that financing. So if you're serious about this, you need to pay your 20,000 Rand. The contract of sale will be signed on the day or be emailed to you if you do it electronically. And then you've got to be really quick about getting your processes in place in terms of going to Uber, supplying your documentation so they can get the bond on your behalf. If you do that speedily, 21 days is more than ample. If you mess around, it becomes an issue, and the developers are very, very specific that after 21 days, unless you can show a reason why the process is taking longer and you can communicate, that deal will be cancelled. I think it's really important because that's in the interest of the project, because everyone wants this project to work and everyone wants this project to get going and everyone wants to be able to benefit from that in the long run. And then from a phasing perspective, we are not treating this as separate phases, calculating the pricing after 50% of the sales have been done, which again just shows appreciation in addition to what you'll be achieving year on year. And I think that's pretty much it. Apologies if we haven't been able to get through all questions that have come through, but we really appreciate everyone who's been on the call. I know all your time is valuable, and I think again to the panel, we really appreciate what you guys have done. It's wonderful to work with you guys, and we're really excited for Saturday. And this is an exciting time for Sandton. It's an exciting time for the property market, and we need lots of positivity. And this is as positive as it comes, as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks, Steph. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Be safe.
All the best.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Cheers.